Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and we're back with another simulated universe free-to-play team clear. And for those of you who have seen the thumbnail, we actually managed to do it. Free-to-play still lives on. It was a really tough one because we were much below the recommended level. It was like 60 here, but our units were significantly under level at like 50 each only. And for those of you sharper ones, when you saw the thumbnail, you noticed that I actually didn't use my main Danheng in the final battle. The character I chose to opt for is Serval. I'll talk about it in a bit, but my final team comp was Serval, Fire MC, Esther, as well as Natasha. In terms of Esther, she's mainly used here for her buffing for the entire team, together with a skill which does a lot of very good amounts of fire break damage on Cocolia as well as any of the other mobs that she summons as well. I'm running Dance, a 4-star Harmony Light Cone, which pushes the whole team forward when she uses her ultimate as well. In terms of relics, I'm running focusing mainly on this Guard of Wuthering Snow, which allows my team to take slightly less damage from the opponents, especially since Cocolia does do quite a bit of damage. This percentage-based reduction did make a difference, as I talked about already in like my efficiency guide and why I was farming this one on the channel too, and it really did came in handy for this match. And another fire character, Fire MC. The reason why I use Fire MC is we need a tank and an ability to draw some aggro to the side as well. And Fire MC was very excellent in this situation, doing quite a lot of fire break damage as well in the match. In terms of relics, what I'm running is I'm running a 4-piece Guard of Wuthering Snow just for the additional damage reduction and a bit of sustain and energy recharge so that I get my uptime on my ultimate as well, and also not needing to rely on Natasha too much with a little bit of healing, a little bit of energy. Really good, especially when you combo with the other two of them as well. And in terms of Light Cone, I'm running day 1 of my new life. The idea here is just to run a damage reduction stacking, and that's why we have also running this day 1 of my new life to give just a bit more increased damage reduction for all allies by 8%. So plus the Wuthering Snow, that's like 16% damage reduction in terms of just rough additive math. And of course it gives 4-star light cone substats. That's why it's really strong, especially when you are soaking a lot of damage. You definitely want the stats to boot as well. Next up we have Natasha. She's not only a healer in this situation, she's also a cleanse. For those of you who don't know and maybe are struggling a little bit, you want to go into the traces here, down into this bottom right, and you see this Soothe bonus ability. Level it up because it allows her to cleanse debuffs when she uses her skill, making her like not only a healer but also now a cleanser. Very useful for stages when, for example, you get frozen and then you can just cleanse it off in the Cocolia stage as well. So, and last but not least, we have Serval. I'm using here the free-to-play Make the World Clamor that we all got from the pre-registration rewards, and she's the main damage dealer in this set. And in terms of AoE damage, there's not really like much detriment not bringing a Hunt class, because a lot of the problems for Cocolia Boss, as we will see shortly, as I will talk about it in the gameplay section, is that a lot of the problems come because of too much AoE and the Bronya that she summons, which constantly boosts up Cocolia. So Serval was really quite key for this. In terms of relics, I am running a 4-piece Guard of Wuthering Snow, again just to sustain a bit of damage from the boss as well. And a lot of you might be wondering, why am I running so defensive, and you will definitely see how this plays out in the gameplay ahead. But that's not all. Definitely a lot of buffs helped me out quite a bit other than this team composition, because being significantly underleveled means something had to be done slightly different in order to make up for the lack of levels as well. And first of all, I think what definitely helped is having a little bit of the ability tree. I have currently 21 buffs activated when I fought her, and I was up to all this way until this extra blessings one, where it gives me a bit of extra blessings. So any additional advantage definitely was very helpful as well. For those of you who want to try the same comp and perhaps you don't have many abilities being activated so far, I do encourage you to go into the simulated universe and try to like farm slowly first and get more EXP so you can get this tree up. It does add up over time, especially when you add. It's all additive and cumulative along the way. Okay, and let's talk about some combat strategy. As you can see here, I actually cleared the room with only 22 buffs on the account. Many other people who have cleared in with like 5 stars have like 30 plus buffs, so it's definitely achievable for most people, especially if you're trying to mimic a situation as well. My strategy, I basically went for the Path of Destruction. It does a lot of damage in terms of the burst damage based on lost HP of your characters. It's a very challenging path to follow because you need to know exactly when to time your abilities, and if you do get rewarded quite significantly, especially if you know when is the right time. I'll be talking a little bit in terms of the strategy here, but before we dive in more in terms of like the Path of Destruction and what additional stuff we have, let's talk a little bit in terms of combat strategy for phase 1. Phase 1 is pretty straightforward, it's the easiest out of all 3 phases. This is probably when you know you have enough damage, damage check, as well as whether you can check your sustain as well. If you're losing in Phase 1, most likely you're choosing the wrong buffs going into this final fight as well. Here you just want to try to break her as quickly as you can and destroy the shards that appear. That is really the main thing. And okay, now let's just see here, since it just came out on the screen, this is the path of destruction. As you notice, you can just rewind a little bit to take a look. You redrain the life in terms of having this second enhancement from the path of destruction, which eats up to 40% of our current HP and creates a shield because of that. So this explosion that is being done is like automatically, even though we were at full life, we create this explosion to do tons of damage, just making the path of destruction much more useful. Because if you were at full life and you cast the baseline path of destruction, you will do absolutely no damage. So that was really helpful, and not to mention that the additional amount is converted to shielding, and together with preservation path buffs that we took along the way, is actually really tons of value in terms of getting that shield up even more thick and like quick damage. When you attack with a thick shield, you do even more damage. So it's just a combination of both preservation as well as destruction buffs. And now let's just like quickly fast forward in terms of going to the phase 2. It's more or less simple in terms of phase 1. It's just really a DPS check, so I won't really waste your time. Phase 2, I think in my opinion this is like the hardest phase, because Bronya just keeps buffing up Cocolia, allowing her to take too many actions that we were like. This is where like the AoE damage in terms of breaking all units and dealing a lot of damage in an AoE fashion comes in huge handy. You need to eliminate Bronya as soon as you can while also focusing on the shards. As you can see here, I'm basically just like focusing on sustain for my whole team, as well as trying my best to break everyone all at once, which is quite a task to do. And I just tend to like to keep Natasha's ultimate just in case Cocolia does a huge burst. And she does have this state where you actually freeze your units, so you want to have an aggro drawer here so that you are able to at least force the freeze on the one character. Again, Path of Destruction doing tons of work, clearing up some side minions. One thing to note especially, you want to break this mode that Cocolia is in, otherwise she will do insane amounts of damage. So as you can see here, I'm just like throwing whatever I have in my arsenal just to break down the boss as well. I'm able to move more than once thanks to like hunt buffs as well. When I take a number of turns, when I break weakness breaks and stuff like that, I get additional action forward. So those are like the thoughts that I have when I was choosing my blessings as well. As you can see, she does do a lot of control, does summon quite a bit, so that's why Dan Heng wasn't like our selection choice. We really need a lot more AoE in this fashion to get rid of all the objects on the field, because we don't want to take too much damage and die, but rather we can sacrifice a little bit of DPS in terms of hunt DPS on Cocolia specifically, but generally Serval does a huge, way more DPS in terms of considering every single unit on the enemy battlefield.
Everything's ridiculous. Stars, give these trailblazers your blessing. I'm on guard.
And as you can see, like the Path of Destruction explosion is just very massive, especially when you get the tier 2 up and you can explode very strongly. I also managed to get a second tier 2, which is like it gives defense break on the enemy target. As you can see, Cocolia just below her HP bar, there's this like destruction debuff. It reduces defense, and when she takes a turn, lost HP of my characters are then inflicted onto Cocolia as damage as well. Very strong in terms of side damage. Bronya is really causing a lot of trouble in terms of the enemy, for me, in terms of being on the field, so I really want to get rid of her as soon as possible. She just action advances Cocolia way too much.
Saving me won't earn you any favors. Just a little something. Think nothing of it.
This team comp is relatively advanced. You want to manipulate your HP in terms of balancing between being at higher HP, in terms of you don't want to get one-shotted, and being at lower life in terms of able to utilize a lot of the destruction buffs that occur the lower life your characters are on, and also playing around with like the Path of Destruction's explosion to do a lot of damage. Not a very simple way to do it, but it does a lot of damage, as we can see here.
Lance ablaze. Lance forward. Let's rock.
Lance at the ready. It's time.
Nap time.
It's not a threat.
Alright, and now phase 3. I think phase 3 is a lot easier than phase 2. The reason is because the AoE component decreases a little bit. Bronya is no longer summoned and you don't get that huge action advance. But she does freeze a lot more of your characters, as well as going into this like huge enriched state that does a lot of damage. And later you will see that I almost got one-shotted as well. And thankfully I had like some blessings that allow me to survive with 1 HP if I was supposed to be eliminated instead. And the trick to this part is definitely about the breaking. So I took like one of the effects, I think from the Nihility class, where my break damage is increased by 50%. It's going to be very helpful in this final phase, especially if you want to like quickly break Cocolia down to clear the stage. And as you can see, like she has quite a lot of break, and I take like 1 or 2 full rotations just in order to chip down her entirety of the entire weakness break bar.
Oh, let's see.
And a quick tip that I have for you is, if for example you know that she's going into the enraged state, you can leave her at like very low break and don't quickly, like what I did here is like a mistake. You don't want to remove the break damage very early on. You want to just like leave it on the character. Once she goes into the enraged state, then remove in terms of weakness breaker, so you eliminate it much quicker rather than forcing maybe a mistake on yourself. And here is when like Natasha comes in very good handy in terms of her debuff cleanse, especially when a character like Asta, who I really require to have her uptime, I can just simply just use Natasha's cleanse Asta as well. And this is what I mean by saving the weakness break. As you can see, there's like half weakness break left, and she's in this enraged form. Normally it takes about 2 full rotations to get rid of the entire weakness break, but when she was at half bar, I'm able to clear it off with just 1 full rotation, so that she doesn't give my whole team a huge AoE damage as well.
Songs for you.
Let's rock.
Oh, let's see.
So this is very critical. If you are able to like break the Cocolia, a lot of the damage that she does is mitigated as well. Later on, I'll be showing you something what happens if you don't break the weakness break, and you can see how devastating that effect is. Like 2 times she does that probably is enough to call it a GG.
You can fight it or rock with it.
Just a little something. Think nothing of it.
Nice teamwork.
That's better.
Saving me won't earn you those stars. Give these trailblazers your blessing. Huh? Lance ablaze. Lance forward.
I was very lucky here because a lot of the paths that I chose, that whenever I weakness break or defeat a target, I actually get a go again. So you get to see that huge MC combo up, taking her down from like half to 0. So that is like some stuff that you want to consider when you're picking your blessings as well.
Time for a shot.
Saving me won't earn you any favor. Not a scratch. Oh, let's see. Judgment of eternal winter. Time for an encore.
Just a little something.
My whole team was almost wiped out, and I only survived Serval with low life because of the blessing that I got in terms of if your character was supposed to be eliminated, they get to revive with 1% HP.
I'm okay.
Lance ablaze.
And once you survive that attack and she's at this low life, it's basically a win game. And I'll just show you the ending, which is pretty nice because the Path of Destruction was the MVP in this match.
Trailblazers your blessing.
Naughty child. That's better.
Saving me won't earn you any favors. Saving me won't earn you any. Scared yet? Let's rock. I'm on guard.
I'm okay.
Tremble before my power.
And if you found this video helpful and you want to see more free-to-play content, do like and subscribe for more of such Honkai style guides as well. Thank you so much for watching. Do check out these 2 other videos we have here, and see you in the next video.